Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today, I'm joined by somebody whose pictures I came across in the great powers of the internet of awesome cosplay, and I'm so excited to have her join us today. And I am joined by Lauren of Lauren Does Cosplay. And Lauren, I am so happy to have you finally on the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
I am super pleased to have you. I think, as I mentioned in the introduction, I came across your pictures. I believe it's a picture of you or a friend of yours. It's the combination of Gandalf and Saruman from Lord of the Rings. And that picture was awesome.
Thank you.
And I'm pretty sure that led to like an Insta follow. Like I saw that and I was just like, yeah, I need to follow that person.
Well, I appreciate it because I posted it on Reddit, which can often be a mistake. And there was a lot of debate of like, ooh, women are trying to ruin every strong male cosplayer. It's like, you're reading too much into it. We're just having fun. Not that big of a deal.
Oh my gosh, there are places on the internet where I just do not go, and Reddit is one of those where it'll come up if I'm searching for something, and it's like, do you want to install the app? No, I don't. Do you want to subscribe to anything? No, I don't. I just want to look up what I'm looking for.
I know. I have such a mostly hate relationship with it because I just want to my whole goal is just to share stuff that I'm making. I'm not trying to do anything more than that, but then sometimes you post on there and it's all really good feedback and it's all well received, which is a lot like Instagram. I feel like people are a lot kinder on Instagram, but then sometimes on Reddit it'll just hit that audience of people that are so cruel and awful, and you're like, why did I post that? Wish I hadn't.
Oh my gosh. Why? Yeah. Like, why did I read the comments
exactly
section?
Yeah. And then you'll have 100 good ones, and then that one person who's like, you look like an ugly troll, and you're like, you're right.
Oh my gosh. Well, I will say, number one, no ugly troll.
Thank you.
I do have to say though, my favorite picture of yours on Instagram right now is you as Dustin from Stranger Things. Like
really?
it is so wholesome.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's one of those ones that I was in Target buying things that I shouldn't, and I saw that they had a little Stranger Things shirt, and I was like, okay, I don't have anything, but I need to make that happen because it's adorable. So that was one. It's always the ones that you just pull together really quick that you didn't have any plan for, and then they just sort of turn out being really cute. So I'm glad you like that one.
Well, I am super happy to scroll through the entirety of the Instagram, and people that are listening, because normally, I talk about, go make sure everyone checks out the Instagram and the sites that you frequent. Stop. Or I'm not going to say stop. Pause the episode. Go to Lauren Does Cosplay on Instagram. Scroll through because there's a lot of really good cosplay pictures, and check it out, and then hit play to come back to us.
Yes.
But one of the big things that you were into, and obviously, I mean, you dressed up as a wizard from Lord of the Rings. So, Lord of the Rings is one of those fandoms that you were into.
Definitely my first love fandom for sure. It sort of started this whole thing, and I've just always loved it. I think I was 8 when Fellowship of the Ring came out in theaters, and I wasn't allowed to see it, obviously, because I was too young. But I remember, like, my parents got it on DVD when it came out, and then I don't think I ever actually had a theater experience to see Lord of the Rings, which breaks my heart now. Oh. I know, because I wish I could be like, I remember when I went and saw Return of the King, but I remember all the first times that I watched them at home on DVD, and I've just been in love ever since. My true love.
Like it's always something, like, because I remember getting the books, but like this is like because I'm old, so
yeah.
I'll just say I remember getting the trilogy of books plus The Hobbit when I was 12.
Oh wow!
I think. And I remember reading through them, and at the time I didn't realize that Pippin and Merry were not female because I read them as female.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know, like I just wasn't going with it for some reason. But then when I was in college, see that here's the age difference. When I was in college, I was like, "Oh yeah, that trailer is so awesome for Lord of the
Oh,
Rings."
I'm so jealous. Oh, I really am. And that's so funny because I feel like Merry and Pippin, there's nothing really about their characters or their storyline that is particularly like masculine or that they need to be men. Like they could be easily read as women.
Mhm.
So I can sort of see how you got there, which is funny.
Yeah, it's something. It's when young readers
Yeah.
just inserted, and of course I also had nightmares of the ring wraiths, so that was
Yes.
fun, you know.
Yep. They were scary.
Um, yeah, somebody asked me my favorite like movie clip, like you know how
Uh-huh.
you got like that one favorite movie experience,
Yes.
and mine is that clip in Fellowship of the Ring
Mhm.
where it's all of them cresting the hill, like in the camera's focused on each one of them as they kind of like come over that hill, and you get a
Oh, uh-huh.
picture of 'em, and the music is like
Yes.
soaring, and
Oh,
I love that.
it's all so good. Like I watch Lord of the Rings. I've seen it more times than I could possibly count, or would I'd be too embarrassed to even guess how many times I've seen it. And every time I watch it, I'm like, I can't believe how amazing this is. Like the majesty and the excitement never fades for me. I get so excited every single time I watch it.
Absolutely, it's something where like my kids had been asking to see it
Hmm.
recently within the past couple of years because they see the big extended edition box
Oh,
sets
yep.
that I have, and then
Mhm.
I've got the smaller Blu-ray where it's like actually like it fits in a
Yep.
DVD case. Uh, but they're like, "Oh, when can we watch it? When can we watch it?" And so over the summer, I showed them Fellowship of the Ring
Oh,
extended edition,
oh,
and
so
they
beautiful.
they they all made it through. They made it
Good.
through. Because sometimes they have that tendency to fall asleep, so I made sure to start like at 12. I started at noon, so that way
Good.
we'd be done at like 4:30.
Yep. Ample time for like bathroom breaks and pausing and snacks and everything.
Absolutely, and they loved it, and I told them that over Christmas break we'll watch Two Towers.
Wow. That's so special. How old are they?
They are well, they're older than you were.
Okay.
They're 11 and twin 10-year-olds.
Okay.
So
Wow. Yeah, because my boyfriend and I have been together for 7 years, and I've always said like, if we ever have kids, what's the earliest we can make them watch it?
mhm.
Because I'll be devastated if I have kids and they don't like Lord of the Rings. Like, what do you do at that point?
I have asked that same question, and in fact, like I took I tried to have the kids watch Star Wars: A New Hope
Uh
way
huh.
back when they were like 6 or 7. They all left me. Like, and that hurt, that
That's
wounded me to the soul. Like,
that's something
you
you don't
guys
recover
left.
from.
I know, like you left me while we're watching Star Wars, and then I try to get them to like watch Star Trek, which is another thing.
Uh huh.
No, they don't want to watch it.
Oh
They're not down with it.
no.
But slowly, it's been a slow exposure of okay, I'm getting them into things, and we'll get it. We'll get it eventually.
Okay. I wish you luck on your endeavors with that.
Now, what was it that drew you to Lord of the Rings when you were at that age?
I don't even know if I can really pinpoint like what it is exactly. I think I don't know. I just thought it's really the whole package. It's the sword fighting and it's the landscape of New Zealand and Middle Earth and it's the music and it's the actors. It's like this incredible culmination of everything is so perfect. And I was just completely enraptured by it. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And of course, like Orlando Bloom and Viggo Mortensen are like the best looking men on the planet. And then like all of the elves, Arwen and Galadriel, it's like everyone is so beautiful to look at. Like an 8-year-old can identify that those are beautiful people. And I just loved it. I just loved it. Yeah, it's hard to say what exactly it is, but I've always loved fantasy stuff. Like I remember watching Van Helsing when I was like 10. I was like, "Oh, I want to be those vampire ladies." Like I just have always loved stuff like that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Now, have you now? I imagine you watched the movies first.
Yes. Yep.
Have you tackled the books? Because I'm it's Lord of the Rings is
Yes.
one of those fandoms where there's definitely a split of there's the people that have read the books and watched the movies, or
Mhm.
just watched the movies, or just read the books, and it's interesting to find out like where people fall.
It is, and it can get a little dicey. I feel like there are like Tolkien purists, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of categories of how people like to digest their Tolkien material. And so I definitely started with the movies, had already watched them a million times. And then in high school, we had, I was in some like advanced English class or whatever, and we had to read books over the summer. And I decided to read Lord of the Rings. And so that was the first time that I had read them. And I'll be honest, they're a little bit tough to get through.
Hmm.
It's not a completely digestible writing style. Obviously, the world he created comes through, and the story is still the story, and it's amazing. But there, it's not. Wow, it's such a like taboo topic for Tolkien fans. Like, it makes you feel like less of a Tolkien fan. But I don't particularly like reading the books that much. Ooh, I can't believe I just said that. Yeah, I mean, I definitely am more of a movie person, but then again, I collect the books and I have, I think, more than 50 editions of all of the Lord of the Rings books. So
Oh my
I
goodness.
know I'm sort of like a crazy collector. So then people are like, why do you collect them if you don't even like reading them? I'm like, I don't know. I just like them a lot.
Because they're pretty.
Yes, they're pretty, and it's not about like the reading it. It's about what he created and what, the essence of the thing.
It is definitely something. And you hit the nail on the head when it comes to like the Lord of the Rings fandom and the split with like the purists and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I like in college I had my one roommate, and he liked the movies,
Mhm.
but he said that he could never make it through the books because it was Tolkien always talked about like the blades of grass
Yes.
individually. Like that was always like his thing was,
Yep.
he'll describe a blade of grass, and it takes him like two paragraphs to get
Yeah.
through a blade of, yeah.
It can take
Um,
4 pages to just describe, like, one step through a landscape, and it's like, "We get it. It's really nice. It's beautiful. Let's keep it moving here."
and on the other hand, like I have a friend, and his major beef was there was no Tom Bombadil, and
Mm.
he wouldn't let that go for years. Like
That is the
where
epitome of a Tolkien purist, the people who can't let go the Tom Bombadil thing. It's like, just let it go. It's not necessary to the story. It would have been super hokey in the movies. It wouldn't have looked right. I don't think he would have fit in with the movie at all.
it would have been a big departure from like the whole movie in general,
The
essentially.
tone, I would say, like, because in the books, the elves are a little bit more jovial and sort of, dancing and singing a lot. But if they had been like that in the movies, it would have been a very strange tone shift. I think in the movies,
Mhm.
they needed to be these ethereal, almost like solemn sort of creatures. So I think I have an issue with people who can't separate the source material from, whatever else it gets made into. Like, just appreciate the books for what they are and appreciate the movies for what they are. They're both amazing, and they have to be different, and that's okay.
Absolutely. I gotta ask,
Mhm.
who is your favorite character from Lord of the Rings?
Okay, we all know that's just not an answer anyone can give. There are infinite answers. Everyone is so good. Like, obviously, Sam is the hero of the story. You got to say Samwise because he's great. But then, unpopular opinion, I think Frodo is so underrated, and like I think especially his movie depiction, people are like, "Ooh, he's such a like whiny little bitch." Like, Frodo, no one likes Frodo. And it's like, do you understand the weight that this man is carrying on his shoulders? He's got the whole weight of Middle Earth resting on his little hobbit neck, and a true force of evil like corrupting his soul. And it's like all these layers, and people just are like, Frodo sucks. Like, he never gets any credit, and I hate that. Sorry. Hate that people don't give him credit. Like, he's never appreciated in the fandom, I feel like.
Yeah, he's definitely got. I think I almost want to say he's got like the Luke Skywalker,
Yes.
where you're with. Frodo and you're with Luke Skywalker so much, and
Mhm.
then they have like those quote unquote like whiny moments,
Yep.
and it just sticks.
Yeah, and they're like immediately discredited for it. It's the exact same for Harry Potter in Harry Potter. Like no one ever says that they like Harry because he's essentially exactly like Frodo. He's carrying the weight of the wizarding world, and you see him have a little teenage fit in the fifth movie, and then everyone's like, "Oh, Harry sucks." It's like he doesn't. He really doesn't. Like he's really the core of the story. He's so fantastic. I don't like when characters don't get the credit they deserve.
Yeah, it's tough, and everyone. I almost there everyone will always say, or at least I hope everyone will always say like they love Sam because I
Oh
love
yeah.
Sam. Like that's if I ever got to the point where somebody needed to play me in a movie like that that's the actor right there
Yeah.
is and I'm blanking on his name right now.
Sean Astin.
Sean Astin. Like he would be me.
Yeah.
He's a little older than I am, but he'd be me.
He's so wholesome. Like you just see him and you're like, that's a kind face. And he always gets casted as a kind character.
Hmm.
But I mean, other great characters. How do you not love Aragorn? He's amazing. Gandalf, incredible. They all just add so much to the story, I think.
I do have to say, so my kids watched Fellowship of the Ring,
Mm-hmm.
and Balrog fight Gandalf,
Yeah.
like falls and everything, disappears, and they're like, "Oh, is Gandalf going to come back?" And I'm like, "Oh, I can't really tell you that."
Yeah.
And so my oldest son is like, "Well, I saw him on the box for Two Towers, so he obviously comes back."
Wow, spoiler alert.
And I'm like, "Dang it! Like, come on now."
Yeah, I guess that's the magic you miss when you don't watch them when they actually come out in the 2000s.
Yeah, I can't rewind time for them to be able to
No,
experience it like that,
that's
but
okay. Minor spoiler, they'll get over it.
they'll get over it, yeah, because they don't know anything about what else is happening, so
Right.
they should be all good. Do you have a favorite of the movies? Because I know that's again
Mhm.
another split of, oh well, I love this movie, and I
Yeah.
because for people that read the books, it's more about like the depiction of what you're seeing on the screen
Right.
versus just what you're seeing. So again, curiosity gets me.
Well, I apologize for all my non-answer answers, but I usually say Return of the King. Like when people ask me what's my favorite movie of all time, I always say Return of the King because it's so epic. Every part of it is just like a whirlwind of emotion and epicness. But then the Fellowship is so iconic, and there are so many great parts in that movie as well. But then The Two Towers is also such a good middle movie. It's like the one middle movie in history that is just as good as the other two. I know it's such a non-answer to say all three of them, but whatever. I'll say Return of the King for the sake of answering.
That's so. It's all good. Like I answer, non-answer, everything, nothing.
It's all of them. It's the whole thing.
You can't have one without the other two.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to? Because I know Amazon. I think
Mhm.
it's Amazon is doing Lord of the Rings, but
Yes.
I've heard it's like Second Age, I
Yep.
believe.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I think I have pretty high hopes. I heard that it has a big budget, and I believe that it's all actually going through like the Middle Earth estate, um, like whoever owns
Hmm.
Tolkien copyright. It has to all go through them, and has to be like what Tolkien actually wrote in all of his many books. So I think it'll be accurate to the source material, and I hope that it's good. I'm not going to make any judgments now because I haven't seen anything, but I have high hopes.
High hopes.
I got high hopes.
Now, going away from Lord of the Rings for just a moment, because I gotta know, like, are you a fan of The Hobbit?
Yes, I read The Hobbit every year. I think it's just a fun, easy little read. I like to read it around the holidays. And I don't know, I don't really know if it's an unpopular opinion, but I like the movies, which I, I like them. They're not Lord of the Rings, don't get me wrong. They're not the same level at all,
Hmm.
I enjoy them for what they are. They're a little bit crazy and goofy at times, and there's way too much in a lot of them, but I think they're really fun, and I love Smaug.
That was going to be my question
Mhm.
because I love the Hobbit book and I
Yeah.
grew up on the Hobbit cartoon movie.
Oh, okay.
So I'm coming from that perspective. Love Lord of the Rings, and I used to read the Hobbit pretty routinely.
Mhm.
Although to be fair, I skipped over reading the songs a lot of the time. Like it's
That's
like
fair.
okay, song,
It's a
skip,
song.
skip, skip.
Yeah. Rhyme, 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 skip.
But like with the when the movies came out, like I watched the first one in the theaters, and then that was it. Like I never went back to the theater to see the other two, and I did
Oh,
watch them, but I felt like they didn't need to have three. I felt like maybe they could
totally.
have reduced it to two.
Yeah, and I think that was a I've watched a whole bunch of stuff on all of the drama with that because originally Guillermo del Toro was supposed to make the Hobbit
Hmm.
movies, and I
Yep.
think he was just going to do one, and then whatever happened, it fell through. Peter Jackson took it back up, and I believe he wanted to do two movies, and then the studio was like, "We want three." So it was sort of just everyone scrambling to try to make a 100-page book into three movies, which I think everyone knows that that was not the right move. But and like I said, there's a lot of too much in them. But
Hmm.
I think there are some really fun elements. I love Smaug. I really like pretty much all of An Unexpected Journey, the first one,
Hmm.
because Riddles in the Dark is my favorite scene of all time. So I think they did that scene with Bilbo and Gollum really well.
The only thing that I was really frustrated with because you have all the dwarves and
Mhm.
they have incredible, incredible like designs, like
Mhm.
character designs to each of them, so individualistic, and then you don't see or interact with most of them. And it's
Yeah.
like, for a three movie thing, I would have loved to have gotten to know them a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, some of them like don't even have a single line in all three movies, which is sort of and that's why Peter Jackson was so hesitant to ever make a Hobbit movie because he was like, I don't know how to make 13 characters on screen at any given time. I don't know how to make that interesting. So there's definitely give and take on those movies in
Hmm.
terms of quality and all of that. My biggest gripe with them actually is the CGI used on all of the orcs. I really hate it. I hate it so much. That's my biggest problem.
Well, I mean, I can see that. And I did find a copy somewhere on the internet where it was like it cut out everything that wasn't in the books.
Yeah, I
And
never watched that, but I heard about it.
yeah, I found it and I have it and I've watched it a few times, but the problem is then like you miss out like on music, like it'll have
Mm.
like a bit of music and then it's like cut.
Oh yeah, I would sort of ruin
But
it.
whatever.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I don't judge people if they don't like them. I understand that they're sort of their own beast.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings is definitely one of those fandoms that has been around for such a long time
Mhm.
that I feel like everyone who is in like the science fiction fantasy realm of or even like movies or books, like everyone has some kind of opinion on Lord of the Rings
Yep.
and forever will.
Yep. Definitely.
Now on the flip side of Lord of the Rings,
Mhm.
at least we got a few references to Lord of the Rings in the show, is Stranger Things, which
Yeah.
we've got 3 seasons from Netflix, and a 4th season finally was officially announced,
Yeah.
and most likely will be some released sometime in 2020. My guess is like fall or winter, but
Uh-huh.
who knows for
Yeah.
that. Stranger Things, did you get into it originally when it came out? Was it something that was on your radar, or did somebody have to say like, "Hey,
No,
Lauren, watch it"?
I'm sort of trash for like streaming services, so pretty much whenever Netflix comes out with anything new, I'll just watch it. I've watched like a lot of really bad Netflix movies and TV shows, just in the hopes that something will be good. So whenever they debut something, it's sort of on the top of the their platform, whatever. So I
Hmm.
watched it, I think, like right when they released it. And I remember watching the first episode and thinking it was going to be really scary. Like I thought it was going to be sort of a horror show.
Hmm.
And then it's obviously not. But yeah, I was on it right away and loved it.
I had a friend send me a message like a couple weeks after it had been released, and they're like, "Have you watched it yet?" I was like, "No, I don't do horror movies. Like, I'm not a horror person."
Okay.
And she said, "You need to watch it. It's not super scary. Like,
Mhm.
there's scary parts, but you should be okay." And I have to say that I was hooked the minute that they showed Dungeons and Dragons being played. I was like, "Yep,
Oh,
I'm in.
yeah, I'm
I'm in
in.
for all of it."
Yeah. Little nerd kids. I relate. Yeah, it's a great show. I feel like, can we all agree that that one episode in season 2 just like never happened?
Oh yeah, the one that everyone hated.
Yeah. Is it sort of
Yeah.
like canon that everyone is just pretending that that didn't happen?
Listen, unless they weave it back in somehow, then yes,
I really hope
it
they
didn't happen
don't. I really hope they don't, because
because like, and that was probably the thing that frustrated me the most with that episode in season 2 is like it's such a standalone episode
it's so out of
where
place.
there was no payoff
Yeah.
besides like Elle kind of like learning a little bit more.
Yeah.
I wanted what was I 8?
I don't even know.
I don't know. If she was like, if it was like that much of an episode, I would have liked to have seen her like show back up at some point to be like, "Hey, I'm kind of like repaying you," but you
Mhm.
know, it didn't
I
happen.
think it was
So
just such a flop that they were like, "Yeah, let's just act like that never happened. Let's move along. Forget that storyline."
yeah, I'm yeah, that's definitely that episode, and I remember because we showed the kids Stranger Things over the summer.
Oh, nice.
So because they'd been begging for it, they've been begging for like a little bit, more
Mhm.
adult stuff. So we've been having them watch like movies and shows with us,
Uh-huh.
and that was one where we're like, okay. And then that episode came on. My wife and I were just like, okay, we can tune out for this one and
Yeah.
just
You can, but yeah, that's the thing, is that you can completely skip it and it doesn't take away from that season at all. Like it doesn't add anything.
it's like Elle disappeared, but Elle's back.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're just like, I wonder where she was. Doesn't matter. Keep going.
Oh my goodness. Now I gotta ask because this is going to be like the same question from like Lord of the Rings, and I fully expect the same answer.
Okay.
Um, favorite character for Stranger Things?
Ooh. Ooh. I guess I'll go with Steve, the hair.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like he has had a really pleasing story arc, and I just love his like big brother attitude with all of the younger kids. He's fun to watch.
That is at first I thought you were going to say Dustin, so I was like, okay,
Dustin is
Dustin.
great too. They're all
But
great.
they're all great. Well, I have problems with a few of them in like the third season where it's like,
Oh.
oh gosh, like
Oh yeah, they're sort of getting a little bit in the teen ages where you're like, okay.
I,
Angst.
I I do have to say I love Steve's arc because
Yeah.
of course, first season you hate Steve.
Yeah, he's
Like
the worst.
he's the worst,
Yeah.
but at least like when it comes push comes to shove at the end, like he's there to be a part of the team.
Yep.
But yeah, his continuing arc like through season 2 and then especially like season 3, man.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so funny, like the memes that are going around, like, "Oh, what did you do all summer? Oh, I adopted 4 kids."
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. He can't get through a season without taking a pretty rough beating to the face. He really gets put through the ringer every season.
yeah, his character though. I mean, that's the character that out of all, I think all the characters in Stranger Things is the one where I fell in love with his character,
Mhm.
and like for him to go from how he was in that first season to where he ended in season 3 is
Yeah.
just so good.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful line to watch.
And I think the other thing that I really loved about season 3 that they did really well is they essentially split the party. So
Yes.
you have like these 3 or 4 different storylines going on,
Yep.
and then that end at the end episode where it's like everyone just
Mhm.
comes back together. And it's like, oh,
I know, it's so satisfying. That scene where Dustin is singing to his girlfriend, it was like it's gold. I loved that part so much. They really
Did
nailed
did
it.
did you think for at any time that Dustin was like not telling the truth about having a girlfriend?
I think I thought that I think he was telling the truth because it would be a weird thing for him to make up. But also, he had been sort of talking with Steve about girls, so I don't know if he was like trying to be cool. But I thought that he was telling the truth. I think they were very much trying to portray it like he was making it up. So I
Mhm.
figured there was probably a girlfriend. But I loved that whole part.
Oh, I love that. Like it's that scene where if I need cheering up, I'll just go to that scene and watch it just for
Yes.
the song and just for like watching the reactions
Yes.
of.
Yeah, just switching to every couple, everyone's just listening to it like, why? Why is this happening?
Oh my goodness, it's so
It
good.
is.
Do you have a favorite season out of the 3 that we've got so far?
I think season 3. I think yeah, I think that's been my favorite so far. 1 is really good, 2 is just okay, but I thought 3 was a real winner.
Yeah, 3 man, and having Robin as part of the group
Yes.
too, and Max being included,
Yep.
it's just increasing and having so many great people, and
I
then
know. They're doing a really good job of introducing new characters that are really endearing, like, right from the start.
mhm,
But they're doing a really good job of that.
they are, and it's a show that I'm excited for every time, like, they
Yeah.
announce, like, "Hey, it's coming back," but I know that they've limited themselves and that I think it's either season 4 is the last one?
Yeah, I heard it was either it's gonna cap at 4 or 5, I'm not sure what
Mhm.
it is, but I think that's good. Sometimes shows can go on a little bit too long or there can be sort of repetitive seasons or whatever, so I think it's okay to cap off at a certain point.
I'm really happy with shows where they're like, okay, we can get this show done
Mhm.
in 4 seasons with like the 10 to 13 episodes or
Yeah,
whatever it is, because like that's the one thing about shows and pre-streaming services
yeah.
or pre even like HBO. HBO didn't do it as much. They kept it at like 10 to 13 for their seasons, but
Mhm.
it reduces the amount of like that bloat. Like
Yeah,
just tell your story, tell what you want to say, and move it along.
exactly. I would rather have 4 seasons of like 4 really good seasons than 10 seasons where 5 of them are really good and then the last few are mediocre.
Exactly. What are you looking forward to for this next season that is coming up?
Ooh, so how did it end? It ended there was like
Elle,
oh, there
Elle and the
yeah.
that one group moved away.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hopper's gone.
Hopper is gone? Question mark. Did you see like the little bit at the end?
Of course I did.
Okay, so I'm thinking he's maybe gonna come back. Thoughts?
I am thinking that, although I've also read, because I can't stay away from reading
Yep.
what other people think.
Uh-huh.
And someone else was like, "Oh, I bet it's the scientist guy from the first season
Mm.
that he shows back up, and maybe it's him."
Mm.
I'm interested to see like where the Russians got their demo dog from, and
Yes. Uh-huh.
and if like what they've been able to accomplish. I'm going to be sad that Alexei is not with us.
Oh, what a
'Cause I
tragic.
really loved him.
I did too. He was so great. I'm sad that he died. Do we have to
And
do you put like spoiler alerts on these or is it sort of just like the whole episode
no, I mean
spoiler
it's
alert?
not recent, so we're all good.
Okay. All right. Alexi dies.
Yeah, Alexei dies. I also loved the paranoid guy because
Mhm.
it's so interesting when we were watching the season with the kids. He's in season 1, like wearing a
Yeah.
suit and tie. Talking about like going to Hopper and saying like you need to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even like put 2 and 2 together that was the same person.
Yeah, I would have to it's honestly been sort of a while since I've watched the first season, so maybe I need to beef up on my background knowledge because I don't remember him even being in there.
Yeah, he shows up because he's like, oh, there's a conspiracy and there's all this stuff
Oh.
going on, but Hopper like blew him off as Hopper does.
Right.
And then he's the one that the kids go, well, not the kids, but the older
Yeah.
kids
Yeah, the
go
guy
to
with the
and
glasses,
to.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Murray, that's his
Yes.
name.
Okay.
Yeah, I loved him, like,
Yeah.
because he's another character where he's been there, and then he grows, and I love the science teacher too, like,
I know
dang.
he's great. I want more science teacher time.
So I hope maybe that, like, because of all the kids, like, asking him questions, like, you wouldn't be at some point, you wouldn't be like, I'd like to know what's going on a little
Yeah.
bit
Like
more.
what? How does we need more of this man? He has knowledge that we need.
He does. It is so good.
It really is.
But if season 4 is the last one, I'll be happy as long as they do a really good season. I want strong season, and I kind of want a resolution for, like, just everything,
Hmm.
and then I want there to be like that cheesy 80, how in the 80s movies at the end they'd be like, insert character here did X, Y, and Z in the future. Like, I
Yeah.
kind of want that.
Yeah. You get like the story ends, but you get a sense of what they all go on to do.
Hmm.
Yeah, that would be nice. I really liked what they did with the Demogorgon and like all of that stuff in this new season, like how it took over Billy's body and he was
Hmm.
sort of the like messenger of that world. I don't know. I thought that was a really cool expansion of what we saw from the last 2 seasons. From like
Right.
it being a demodog to you sort of see the Demogorgon in the sky, and then I just thought that was really interesting how they kept it going, how they evolved.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see, like, what happens with Elle and her powers or
Mhm.
not powers, and
Oh yeah, did she like lose her powers at the end? Is that what happened?
she lost her powers,
Oh, that's interesting.
and she also had the thing, like, jab into her, and
Mm,
they got it out, but, like,
yeah,
as any good like, science fiction type person would remember, just because you got something off your leg doesn't mean
yeah,
that it's not out of your body.
exactly.
Chest burster. No,
Yeah.
you're not going to kill Elle that way.
No, 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 no.
But I am interested to see, like, where they go from here, and like what they play with as far as, like, thematic, the themes of the
Hmm.
series for this one.
Definitely, it feels like they have a really creative team working on everything. So I definitely have high hopes for every new season.
Absolutely. I gotta ask, just out of curiosity, because
Mhm.
you said that you watch, like, streaming trash.
Yeah.
Like, has there been something that you just happened to watch and it was good? Like, it just blew you away? Like, you weren't
Um.
expecting it?
Oh, I that's pretty rare. I'll be honest. So I watch. I know that you said you're not really a horror person, but I watch. I think I've watched just about every terrible Netflix scary movie. Like when I work during the day, because I work from home, so I just have whatever up in the background while I'm working. And so I watch scary movies kind of all day, every day, which is maybe makes me a sociopath. I don't know. But um, so I watch like all of the really bad ones, and it's very rare that I'll stumble upon one that I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty good. And I don't think I could think of any of the titles right now. They're all the same, like the the thing, the same sort of scary movie titles. So it's
Mhm.
hard to think of one that was actually good. But yeah, it's very rare to find a good movie. Like if you haven't heard about it, it's probably not going to be good.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was just curious because it's always something where it's like, "Oh gosh, I have so many things in my queue to watch," and then I just go rewatch something else.
Yeah. Yep. I do that a lot too.
Now, one of the things, and obviously it's the way that I found who you were and who
Hmm.
you are is through Instagram and your cosplay.
Yeah.
How did you get into doing cosplay?
I think my first cosplay was sort of accidental. Um, which was really it was just like a Halloween costume. I did Rey from Star Wars when The Force Awakens. The movie wasn't even out yet, but the trailer had just dropped. It was
Mhm.
sometime like early October, it must have been. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen the movie obviously, but I would love to make that costume. So I remember just it was going to be my Halloween costume, and I was sort of just like looking at the trailer a million times, trying to find any reference photos that I could, And so, and I put kind of a lot of effort into it, which was something that I hadn't ever really done. I don't even think I really knew what cosplay was at this point. And this was, 2015 or 16. I
Hmm.
really didn't know about cosplay or anything, but I just like really wanted to make this character. And so I did, and I even stained like the fabric and tried to make it look all dusty and stuff. So, and then I had heard about a convention in Salt Lake called FearCon. It was like
Okay.
a horror based convention, and I wore Ray, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever. So that was sort of like my first accidental cosplay and convention that I went to. And then it was like, oh my God, everyone is dressed up. This is the coolest thing ever. And then it sort of just spiraled into me finding people on Instagram and like watching cosplay videos, and yeah, sort of like a weird progression. And then, so I was doing it very um, casually at the time. Like I would go to one convention a year and do a pretty haphazard costume. And then this was the first year that I was like, I really want to get into this. I want to be spending more time doing this because it's really fun for me. And I've just been making it happen and having a great time this year.
What's the draw? Just out of curiosity, like, you know, you made the costume,
Mm-hmm.
but now you're getting really into it. Like, what is it for you? Like, what does cosplay do for you?
It's just a great creative outlet. I've always been sort of a creative person, and I love making things. So this year I had done a like a sexy Witch King cosplay, and it was the first time that I did any foam work, which was a new technique to learn, and it was so fun, like cutting out the shapes and putting it together and painting it, and then seeing this finished product that looks like a steel gauntlet. Like it was just so much fun. And when I was done with it and I had worn it to Denver Comic Con this year, the project is over, and I was like, ooh, I need to be making, like, I feel like my life is empty now. Like I have to be making something at night while we're just watching TV. Like now I can't just sit and watch TV at night. I have to be doing something. And that's sort of, I got into chainmail this year.
Hmm.
I've been making, like, there's so much chainmail in my house now, it's terrifying. But just having something to do with my hands in the evenings while we're watching TV is just fun. And then you get like an awesome finished product that it will stand the test of time, and it's like this super cool thing that you made.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
And I know that cosplay. I've had enough cosplayers on the podcast to know, like, everyone has a different thing that draws them
Mhm.
to it, whether it's like the creative outlet, or being a different character, or
Mhm.
doing something with like friends where it's like, okay, I want to hang out with my friends, they do it, so
Mhm.
I shall do it too. But it's really cool that, like, with cosplay, you learn all these techniques that you would never have otherwise like known.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm not sitting around doing anything with chainmail,
Yeah, it's not a skill that I ever foresaw myself picking up, but now I love it and I can't stop doing it. Now my next big mastery to learn is sewing. I like don't know how to sew at all, and my mom, I've sort of been relying on friends and family members who can sew to make me stuff. And then my mom finally got me a sewing machine for my birthday this year. I'm like, all right, I gotta actually learn how to use this thing. So, but that'll be good because I hate having to ask people to sew like the silliest little thing just because I can't
Mhm.
do it. So it'll be a good part of my arsenal to do when it comes to cosplaying.
Unleash the sewing
I
machine.
know. I'm. It's so funny that I'm like making chainmail shirts and all sorts of armor out of metal, but I'm terrified of fabric. Oh.
One of the things I always love to ask people who cosplay
Mhm.
is, how do you choose the character that you want to cosplay? Is it more of a, hey, you love the character?
Mhm.
Is it more of, hey, I really love that outfit? Is it a combination of both? Like, what draws you to the characters that you do?
It's definitely a combination of both, and I have about 50 things that I would love to cosplay. Like I have so many that I think of and would love to do, but it's sort of just that initial, you buy the piece of leather or fabric or whatever it is that is for a specific cosplay, and that's sort of what gets the ball rolling to actually start making it, because you can have all the ideas you want, but until you actually initiate starting it, it's just going to be an idea forever. For like with the Witch King, I had just seen someone's photo on Instagram, like they did a sexy Witch King, and I saw it and I said, I have to make that. I have to do that for myself. You just feel connected to whatever you feel connected to, and I just thought it was so funny, but I knew that it would also be a good, challenging project as well, because I made the mace that he holds at the end of Return of the King. So I was like, okay, it's a big prop. I know the foam will be challenging, but it will also be, sort of a funny, trollish cosplay. And I was just drawn to that. So I don't know. And then, what am I doing next? Oh, so I'm actually going, speaking of learning to sew, I'm going up to my boyfriend's mom's house this weekend, and we're doing like a whole weekend crash course on how to sew. And I'm just going to do a Disney character, because they tend to have they have at least like one relatively easy costume. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go up, I'm going to learn how to sew, but I'm also going to get a cosplay out of it.
Which character are you going to do, just out of curiosity?
I'm thinking about doing Briar Rose from Sleeping Beauty, like before she's Aurora. She's like sort of her peasant-ish gown, like singing to animals. And I looked at it, I was like, okay, I love Sleeping Beauty, and I think I could not mess that up terribly. So that's my first goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite cosplay to do so far?
I really liked Witch King, and I really liked doing Gandalf and Saruman with my friend. She's sort of, I'm in Colorado Springs in Colorado, and she's up in Denver. So like, I wish we were closer, because we love doing projects together, but we're sort of the perfect duo, because she has a costuming and sewing business. So she does a lot of our fabric stuff, and then I do all of the props and foam and everything. So she's a really good cosplay buddy, and it's fun to do a duo. Like when you go to a convention and people are like, oh my gosh, you're Gandalf and Saruman. It's like, yeah, we are. Doing Witch King. There was something so invigorating about doing the Witch King and Mouth of Sauron with that same friend, because we had masks on, and I was like, not even myself. I've always done cosplays like with my face showing, but something about like being behind a mask, I was like, who even am I? I'm like this different person at this convention today. So that was fun.
Because I've had people that do mask cosplays, and they say that it kind of lets them be a little bit more free, more freer, like more able to do whatever, essentially.
Yeah, you can sort of like be more the character a little bit, like without feeling silly, I guess. Like I think a perfect example of it is like people who cosplay Deadpool. So like every Deadpool cosplayer you see is sort of acting like Deadpool. You never see a Deadpool cosplayer that's just like walking around. They're always doing like the silly sort of Ryan Reynolds, that character. And I think it comes with the fact that they're anonymous and they can just be silly and not feel embarrassed about it. And that's what we were doing in our big masks. It was like we were hovering over people and like putting on this like intimidating persona. But if it was my face, I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. That's sort of more embarrassed.
I like, because I'm scrolling through your Instagram now just to see what else you've got. I like that you have a lot of like outdoor photography, like, and I'm almost going to say like Colorado seems to be one of those perfect places where, hey, if you need snow, you're going to have snow. You got mountains, you got like nature.
Yes, I know. I wish we had more like greenery foliage in the spring and summertime, because we really just have pine trees and grass, which is perfect for some things, but other times I'm like, I wish it was like really green, like, green leafy oak trees and shit, but we don't have any of that. It drives me crazy. But I do love doing pictures in the snow. It's definitely my favorite. I think they just turn out so pretty. even though it's miserable to shoot in the snow. It's like I can't even tell you how many times I've done photo shoots in the snow and like everyone's toes are freezing off and it's awful. But then you see the pictures and you're like, oh, that was worth it. It looks great.
So so I mean, you do cosplay,
Hmm.
but on top of that, going even further,
Mm.
you have your own business called In the Reads.
Yes, I do.
W-
Go on.
did cosplay come first? Did In the Reads come first? Was it a combo? Like, did it happen at the same time? And you're like, I will conquer everything.
No, the business definitely came first. It was sort of when you, I don't know if you went to college, but after I got out of school, it was sort of this limbo zone where you're like, all right, I've been in school my entire life and now I
Hmm.
have a degree, but I can't get a job. And what do I do? I'm panicking. I was sort of in that transition mode, and I graduated from Wyoming and then immediately moved to Utah where my boyfriend was working. And then we only lived there for about 6 months and then we moved to Colorado. So it was like sort of a lot of moving and not being able to get a full-time job and like a lot of that.
Hmm.
Um, and we were living with his mom for a period of time while we were house hunting. And so I was sort of in this conflicted spot where I didn't want to get a job in Denver because we were house hunting an hour, like in a town an hour away. So it was like, okay, well, I don't want to get a job there and have to drive an hour every day, but I don't want to get a job here and risk having to quit or whatever in 2 weeks. So I was sort of just doing artwork and doing Instagram and job hunting sort of. And um, I was making token maps and posting them on Instagram just like for fun or whatever. And then people were like, "Can I buy that?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you can buy it." So it was sort of a gradual progression, and it's turned into something really awesome that I would have never expected. But yeah, it started with just making token maps with pen and ink, and I was wood burning bookmarks by hand with like token maps on them and stuff. Um, and so I've come a long way from there, and everything's a lot easier. But yeah, I'm able to do it full time, and I don't have to job hunt, which is the worst. I can just work from home and do something I really, really love.
So your maps were hand drawn or are hand drawn?
They were at the beginning. Well, they technically still are. I do everything digitally, but I do it on my iPad with an Apple Pencil. So it's like I still like use my hand like a pencil and draw everything, but it's not actual pen and ink, but it's still hand drawn. So I don't know.
Right.
It's sort of a little bit confusing. But yeah, I do everything digitally and then I have it all printed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I imagine you're doing it like freehand.
Yes. Yeah.
That's incredible
Yeah.
because like, the maps of Middle Earth are not like some of the easy maps to be like, "Oh, let me just like draw it out."
Yeah. No. Yeah, but it's been a lot of that. And then, as you saw before we started this, I painted a whole mural in my office. So I have a whole map of Middle Earth on my wall now, which is my favorite thing ever.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I do a lot of that, and then I started doing Tolkien style maps of real world places. So I started with Colorado, and I drew Colorado as if Tolkien had drawn it, and that's sort of spiraled into this whole thing where I make Tolkien style maps of real places.
What like I'm at a loss for words of like just how did it come about? Like was it just but I know you said like you couldn't really job hunt because you weren't sure like where you're gonna live,
Mhm.
but like out of everything, like how did that happen? Like because this is very specific and niche and
It is.
you know I'm curious like how like it landed on that.
Well, I was sort of teaching myself and learning how to do calligraphy, like real pen and ink calligraphy. So I was just doing a lot of that in my spare time, and I thought it was really fun. And so, in essence, Tolkien's maps are like the way that the font is and everything, like how he writes his words, is definitely with a calligraphy pen. So I was just translating that same thing into like replicating his maps.
Hmm.
And then it was sort of like I didn't want to be like making too many things that are like directly copywritten, you know? Like it's sort of
Right.
like a dicey territory when it comes to fandom art. It's like I'm doing a replica, like I did this all by hand, but I recognize that it's like these are Tolkien's maps. So I was trying to think of a way to make something that was my own, but still clearly inspired by him. So that's yeah. I just did like the Colorado map first, and then I've done a bunch of them now. But yeah, that's sort of how we got to that point.
That is so cool. Like
Yeah.
it's just something where, like, imagine going to a bookstore and you're needing a bookmark or
Hmm.
whatever, and you find it, and like, but you don't think of like where it would come from, like,
Hmm.
and that's something where I think is so cool. Like looking at your Etsy shop and the stuff that's on your In the Reads Instagram is just wow. I'd really like to have that, or I'd love to
Oh,
give that as a gift, and
yeah.
it's something that is so uniquely. It's so I said so uniquely. It's so unique. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so specific to readers or to people
Yeah.
that love like the Lord of the Rings stuff, or
Hmm.
if they'd like to get a map of like what, like if they had, like you said, you have the Colorado map, and I
Yeah.
see you've got one of Scotland, and
Yeah.
it's just it's so cool.
Yeah. Thank you. I really just wanted to make art that I would want. Like that was sort of the whole purpose was like I want it's hard I know what I like and what I want and I couldn't find that anywhere so I was like oh, I'll just make it myself and that's been yeah sort of the whole goal is to make things I don't make anything if I wouldn't want it so that's what we've been doing and our most recent product is a concrete coaster that we have one with the tree of Gondor on it and one with the like the horse emblem from the Rohirrim
Mhm.
and yeah, they're just things that I would want because I hate when you're looking for something nerdy and it just says like the Lord of the Rings on it. And you're like, I just don't like the way that looks. I would rather have something that's a little bit more subtle. But if you know, you know. Like you see a concrete coaster and you see that has the tree of Gondor on it, and you're like, oh, I that's awesome. I know what that is, rather than it saying like the Lord of the Rings and like Warner Brothers font or whatever.
Yeah, that is definitely the thing that gets me about a lot of like it goes with a lot of the people that do art, like fan art and
Hmm.
stuff, is that it's very much the same. And
Yeah.
when my wife and I go to conventions, sometimes it's and more I respect anybody that can draw, because
Hmm.
I can barely draw stick figure,
Right.
but it gets to the point where it's the same. It's the
Yeah.
same repetitive characters, the
Hmm.
same poses, the same things, and we're always on the lookout for something that's uniquely different.
Yeah.
And that is this right here to a T,
Oh.
is that it's not like the mass produced, the movie studio
Hmm.
like merchandise, and it's
Yeah.
not the same things that I'm going to see over and over again
Exactly.
at the convention. It's like it's like the diamond in the rough type thing where, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is like what I've been looking for, and here it
That
is.
is so kind. That really means a lot, actually. And it's fun because I get a lot of people that request something specific on it. And since I do everything digitally, it makes it really easy. If someone comes to me and is like, oh, can you put my hometown on that map of California? And it's like, yeah, no problem. And I can just put it in, save a new file, and then it makes it so much more special for them. Or I've had people, I did it was either Ireland or Scotland, and someone was like, "Oh, hey, I'm going on my 25th anniversary with my husband. Like, we got engaged and married in Scotland, and we're going for our 25th anniversary. And I would like our whole trip like on the map, documented on the map where we're going." And I did that, and just knowing that it was such a special gift for someone is really cool.
That is cool, and there's just it's so good. It's like now I've got things, because I just I like, a bookmark is something that you can have for
Yeah.
years and years and years,
Hmm.
or you can have like these maps up, and it's like like let's say I have a friend in North Carolina, I need to get a map for, or get
Mhm.
something for them. Like this would be something where it's like unique. Like no one else would ever have that.
Yeah. I have a map of North Carolina, just
Oh, I'm looking at
just in case you're looking.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's definitely it's something that I think is just super cool that and that you do these, again, I say by hand because you are doing it by hand, and
Yeah.
I just so like people that do these are just super like I got nothing. Like it's just
Well, it's so much easier talking to people who get it, like, you obviously get it, and I hate explaining to people what I do who are completely removed from anything nerdy, or, like, they just totally don't, like, they'll say, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "Oh, I make maps of, like, states, but in the Tolkien style," and then they just look at me like, "Oh, okay." It's like, I listen, I get it. It's weird. I make bookmarks. Like, I get that you don't think that that's a real thing, but it's what I do. I love talking about it with people who are like, "That's so cool."
it is because it's so unique away from the standards of what people are used to, and it's just like there it is, and it's just like I don't know what else to say. I don't want to be like, oh, it's so great,
Well,
just
I really
repeatedly, but
appreciate it.
it's so good. Like
Thank you.
I'm amazed by the talent that is there, and I'm blown away by it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that people like it. I still have this, like, I feel like I'm not good enough at everything. Like, I'm not very good at cosplay, I'm not very good at art. So, like, it's just really kind when people truly appreciate it, and it's really nice. So I thank you.
Well, I think it's one of those things where, whether it's people that do like handcrafted items
Mhm.
or people that do cosplay or, pretty much anything where somebody's creating something, I feel that a lot of the time they don't get that feedback of, hey, I like your stuff.
Mhm.
Or like you post a cosplay picture. I imagine like 90% of the comments are going to be like, and I hate to categorize, like, it's gonna be in the section of, "Oh, so pretty,"
Mhm.
or but, like, instead of, "Oh, your like, that crafting is really great," or, "I like the photography set,"
Yeah.
something like appreciating what has actually been made rather than just, like, the offhand
Yeah.
comment
You're so
or
pretty. It's like, thank you.
like
Thanks, but and I think it definitely depends on what the cosplay is, because sometimes I do something really simple and it's like I have like a wig and a shirt on. It's like it's nothing special. So I understand when the comments are just like, "Oh, you look so pretty." It's like, "Thank you." But when I do something like make like scale mail armor or make some sort of prop or something, it's like I would much rather get feedback on the thing that I made, not just my face.
Mhm, absolutely. Now, I do have a question. You are sold out of the coasters.
I am.
So, are there plans for future
Oh
coasters?
my gosh, you can't even imagine how many coasters are on my kitchen counter right now. Just I'm really trying to stock up for Christmas. I'm hoping I was gonna do pre-orders, but now I think I sort of missed that window, and we're just gonna try to make as many as we possibly can, and then probably put them back up for sale like the last week of November,
Okay.
and that will be the final batch, until like for the rest of the year, because they take a long time to make, and we're sort of just we're still actively making them, and then they need processed and filled with resin, and it's like a whole thing. So hopefully end of November there will be a big release, with a couple new designs, and hopefully there will be a lot of them. That's the goal.
That's so cool.
Mm.
All right. For the people that have made it to the end of this podcast
Yeah.
and they'd like to check out your cosplay or they'd like to check out the items that you handcraft and create, for In the Reads.
Uh-huh.
What are some of the best places to do so for the people listening?
All right. Well, if you're looking for cosplay, I'm at Lauren Does Cosplay, all one word, on Instagram, and I post a lot on there and post sort of in the makings of sort of things on my stories. And then for In the Reads, I'm at in.the.reads on Instagram, and there's lots of rep discount codes and early access stuff on there. And then I just made my own website, which I'm really excited about. So I have a domain. I'm inthereads.com for shopping, which is really exciting because I was on Etsy. I still have an Etsy, but the website is a big step for me. And that's sort of it. I'm not super active on Facebook. So Instagram and inthereads.com.
Okay, awesome. I will have the links to everything in the show notes and on the Facebook page and the website. So if you are listening and you really enjoyed Lauren and want to check out either of the cosplay or the creation side of Lauren, definitely go and check out the websites and the Instagram pages. You will not be disappointed on either front. And Lauren, I just have to say, number one, thank you for joining me on the podcast because it was a ton of fun, and just thank you in general because you this has been an incredible time, and I've enjoyed having you here to talk.
Yeah, I've had a great time too. I love talking about all of this stuff, so I appreciate you inviting me onto the podcast, and this was super fun.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.